Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webcast, How to Address Year-End Reporting. My name is Brooke Bacon, Marketing Lead with GSI, and I'm also pleased to welcome our main presenter, Alan Van Nice, Vice President of Customer Solutions with Reports Now. Alan is a veteran of the J.D. Edwards Marketplace, holding roles as a JDE trainer, IT manager, and specialized IT consultant. He brings his 15 years of knowledge and experience to lead the sales department and educate new and existing customers about Reports Now products and services. Now, before we get started, I just want to give you a chance to review our safe harbor statement. And now for a quick overview of today's meeting, which will last about 60 minutes. First, we will take a moment to go over a couple of housekeeping items, as well as provide a brief company overview. Then I will turn it over to Alan to get into our main presentation, which will last about 40 minutes. Next, we'll take a minute to go over upcoming educational events, and then we will wrap up with a 10-minute question and answer session. If you would like to submit a question, you can do so through the questions panel at the bottom of the GoToWebinar console window located on the right side of your screen. Please note that all questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. So if you would like to minimize your GoToWebinar console during the presentation, just click the right-facing arrow key on the top left of the console. Clicking the left arrow key will return the console so that you can input your questions. Now I'd like to give you a brief overview of GSI. We are a full-service J.D. Edwards consulting organization, and we are an Oracle Platinum partner that was founded in 2004 and now has over 100 employees. We have offices nationwide and are recognized on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest-growing companies in the U.S. And we specialize in project consulting, managed services, cloud and hosting services, with all of our services backed with a 100% guarantee. We also provide a broad spectrum of business, functional, and technical consulting services for Oracle, Oracle NetSuite, Oracle Cloud, Salesforce, ServiceNow, and other enterprise applications. In addition, we are a product development company that has many popular products, including Genius, which is our advanced monitoring and performance analytics solution for J.D. Edwards or any business-critical system on any platform. Genesis, which is our load and stress testing application for system design, validation, or expansion for J.D. Edwards or any web-based business-critical system. G Shield, which is our comprehensive security solution for J.D. Edwards, including password reset and two-factor authentication. Rapid Reconciler, which allows you to effectively manage your inventory, in-transit, and R&V reconciliation processes for any version of Enterprise One or World. And Rapid Approval, which is our Salesforce AppExchange solution that streamlines the approval request process. Thank you so much for your time. And now I would like to turn things over to Alan for our main presentation.
Brooke, can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay, good. Let me go ahead and go full screen here and we'll get going. Okay, so welcome everyone and thank you for attending, I guess this afternoon for some of you and this morning for some of you as well. So the company is Reports Now. The software that I will be talking about today is called DAS. We call it DAS for short. DAS stands for Data Access Studio. And Brooke, can you hear me okay? And can you see my screen?
I can see your screen and I can hear you just fine.
All right, good. So that's a picture of my mugshot right there. So I am the Vice President of Customer Solutions, which basically means that I run sales and training for the entire world for Reports Now. And I want to talk a little bit about Reports Now in general, and then we'll get into the main topic of today, which is year-end. So we've been around since '03. We are in Denver. I overlook the old JDE campus out my window. So we're very closely related to J.D. Edwards still to this day and have many friends that still work in that building over there. We have 40 partners worldwide that resell the solution. We are an Oracle Gold partner ourselves, and it is a JDE specific application. So when I say JDE specific, I mean you can hit other systems with it, like even Salesforce in the cloud, but you do log into the application with your current JD Edwards user ID and password, so you do have to be a JD Edwards user to use the application. We are the leader in the space. We have 50,000 users worldwide using the software, and I would say 95% of those users are ordinary business people. They are not technical. And we pride ourselves on being the self-service solution of choice within the JDE space. And so speaking of self-service, I just want to touch on 3 quick examples of what I think advanced self-service means. So firstly, it's got to have automated data delivery in multiple formats. And I think we're going through a weird time right now where we have a lot of new, the term big data shows up all the time. The term analytics shows up all the time. We have all these new solutions entering the space all the time. It's hard to keep up with what's what. The one thing I'm finding as a common feature with all the new tools is that your data is not really your data. You can connect to data using these tools, but you can't get the data out very easily. So they force you to do things like push your data to the cloud, to like Azure or something like that, before you can even export your data. With our tool, you can automate delivery, scheduling this stuff yourself in a very easy to use Outlook-like format, and then you can deliver that data in any format you want: Excel, PDF, HTML, XML, any format you can dream up, you can use as a delivery method. Additionally, you can get that on demand with a click. You click on an Excel button and it exports it to Excel. You can also create these things into mobile-ready dashboards and even specialized forms. So today I'll be showing off a 1099 form. And a lot of these products today will let you build, either real-time reports or near-time dashboards, but they don't let you do both. Or they let you do dashboards and reports, but they don't let you do forms. We do it all. So I'm going to show that to you today. The second item in advanced self-service would be, as the world changes and compliance regulations change and affordable healthcare requirements change, and we come up with new CAT codes for our chart and all kinds of other new stuff, the ability to have ad hoc capabilities has a measurable impact on your own ability to do your job. So when you're thinking about a tool to give to the masses for self-service, it's got to be fast, it's got to be easy, it's got to be non-techy, and then it's got to have safeguards in place, like inheriting security and localizations and things of that nature. And then the learning curve, it's got to be tiny, it can't be big. So we pride ourselves in the fact that our learning curve for our product is about 3 days to be a normal citizen developer. If you want to be an analytics expert, it's going to take you a few more weeks, but you can actually be productive after about 3 days. And then lastly, JDE integration, or just ERP integration in general, is becoming more and more commonplace and needed. If you're on a budget variance screen and you see a weird number, wouldn't it be cool just to click on that number and be taken to the exact same location inside JDE so you can fix that number? Well, that's the type of thing that integration allows you to do. And if you're a JDE specific tool like we are, you can do JDE integration. If you're a name brand tool that's not really a niche specialization tool, you can't do those things. So we pride ourselves in the fact that when it comes to self-service, we can give you really advanced self-service in a JDE specific way. So let's talk JDE for a minute. So when you talk about JDE, it's got 5,000 tables, it's got 8,000 business views. Finding data is tough if you're not a techie. So I'm going to show you some things today that we do that make things very simple when it comes to locating the data that you want to find. And then things like language support. I got an email a couple of weeks ago asking me, hey, Alan, how do I turn on language support? The answer is you don't. We just inherit that. You log in with your JD Edwards user ID and password, and voila, you're in the language you should be in. So what we do is we look at JDE, see what your language preference is. If it's not set, we take the Windows language preference. So it just happens. And then JDE formatting just happens too. If you're in Europe, you get JDE dates in Europe. If you're in the US, you get them in the US format. Same with like the JDE look and feel. I mean, you're going to see currencies in the right format and visual assists on your pages, things of that nature. And then lastly, probably the most important thing of all, you log in with your current JD Edwards user ID and password. We apply your security immediately. So you'll log in with your current group and role, and you'll be off to the races. So today, I'm going to talk about end-of-year topics, and the theme of today that I may repeat a couple of times is do it once. So we're going to do all this stuff from scratch, pretending we've never done a year-end before. Maybe we're brand new to JDE or something, and we're doing this stuff ad hoc for the first time. The cool thing is that everything I do will be rinse and repeat next year. So next year, you can use the exact same reports I build today, and it'll just be do it once and you're done. So we're going to build a P&L and do a year-to-year comparison. We're going to check our data to make sure it's prepped and ready for 1099s. Once we think the data is ready, then we're going to build a 1099 and we're going to burst it out to each vendor through email. And then lastly, I'm going to build a dashboard that checks our inventory, actual amounts that are left on the shelf for the end of the year compared to a spreadsheet where I put in my goals in the spreadsheet, hoping that that's where we would be at the end of the year. So we're going to see how well we forecasted. So at the end of the day, this is kind of what they'll look like. So the first P&L we'll do, it's probably pretty tiny on your screen, but you can do a P&L. I'll do that first. Then we'll do the actual 1099 process, and then we'll do a dashboard showing off some inventory goals. So that's what we're going to cover today, and let's jump in. So when you come into Data Access Studio, this is what it looks like. It's pretty simple. The coolest part of the front end for me is what I call this natural language search right here. You just type in something like address book and it comes up. If you're in a non-JDE tool that does not look at the data dictionary, you're going to have to know your table names like the F0101 or the F0006 or the F41121, stuff like that. It's much easier to type in accounts pay and the table that you're looking for just comes up. Additionally, if you're working with screens and you're on a screen instead of JDE, work with address book, for example, you can just cut and paste the screen name and the business view that screen uses will pop up and you can open up that business view. And unlike OneView or some of the other tools, you don't change the actual business view, but we allow, if there's hidden columns on the business view, we allow you to unhide them and use them without things like package builds, which is really helpful for organizations that don't have a full-time CNC person on staff. So at any rate, that's there's two sections of the product. This is the ad hoc section, which I'll get into when we talk about 1099s. Let's begin by building a P&L. So I'm just going to click on new report here, and under the new report mechanism, you can do things like create your own joins, or you can bounce into what we call a quick report here, and we give you three options for quick reports. We give you financials, fixed assets, and job cost. I'm going to start off with financials, and this little arrow means go, and I'm going to go. So we'll give it a second here to pop up the wizard. Okay, so when the wizard opens, the first question it asks me is, what are we building here? And it gives us three options here. We can do a balance sheet, an income statement, or a trial balance. My goal is to do a P&L, so I'm going to go income statement here. And then I'm going to name this report Alan's, I don't know, GSI webinar P&L, something like that. Okay, so next question. So by default, this wizard is built over the account balances table, which is the F0902. It's asking me if I also want to use category codes for my chart of accounts. And if I do, by checking this box, it joins in the chart of account master. Additionally, it asks me, do I want to bring in categories from my business unit master, like division, region, things of that nature. If I check that box, it also joins in the business unit master. And then all of our revenue is stored as a negative number. So it's asking me if I want to reverse the signs on my revenue, and I'm going to say yeah. Then I'm going to go to columns. So we're doing year end. So I care about year to date. That's what I want. So for this particular P&L that I'm going to do, I am not going to look at a fiscal period column. I'm only going to look at year to date, and then I'll add an additional column later on for last year's year to date, just to kind of see how we did. Then I'm going to go to rows. And on rows, you've got several options here. I mean, we could bring in the entire chart of account if we wanted to. We could bring in just a listing of all of our account groups, just in a numerical list. But I'm going to do something more specialized, where I bring in a predefined list. I'm going to load it up here, and I've got one called Alan's P&L, and it's going to load me up right here. So you'll notice here on line 1, I've got a word that says profit, and then I've got no criteria here whatsoever, which means that's just going to be a heading. It's just going to be a blank amount here. On my line 2 here, where I've got total revenue, I'm picking up objects between 5,000 and 5587. Now I got there by clicking the ellipsis button here, and then right here you can do any set of calculations you want to do. You've got every single column on the 3 tables I joined together available to me. I've got cat codes, I've got business unit, anything you can dream up you can do here. I just kept it simple and said I want objects between 5,000 and 5587. I can even do ranges here, I can do lists here, I can do not in lists, and I can put an or statement in here, and I can do a list and a range or 2 ranges or whatever you want to do. So the cool thing is once you build this list, and we call them lists, once you build a list, you get to share that list with anyone else in the organization you want to share it with, and then they can use it in the future. Additionally, when I'm done with it and I create the report, if I need to add rows and columns, I can still do that. So let's move on. I'm going to go to my final tab here, and it asks me, do I want to run this by date or by period? And you know, in JDE, all of our screens typically have the period and year on them. I'm going to stick with that. And then I can go 12 period accounting or 52 accounting here, and I'm going to go with 12 period and just keep it simple and create the report. And we'll give it a second to spin this thing up. So it comes up with a report, and I'm going to go ahead and key in my fiscal period of 12 in my year of 17. And I'm going to hit run. And I'm using 17, you all, just because that's where my demo data is. And I've got my list here. So now it doesn't look very pretty yet, but it will. If I double click here, I'm back into my list, and I can click on here and I can insert rows before or after. I can change my criteria, things of that nature. Sometimes I pop in here and my top line is blank because I have some accounts that I left out. And so it reminds you that, hey, you're missing some accounts here, which is kind of nice. So let's add in year 16. So to do that, I'm simply going to copy the column like so. I'm going to double click it. And then I've got this relative offset here of 0. I need that thing to be minus 12, which goes 12 months back. So minus 12, save and close. And I should have, let me rerun this. So now I've got December of 16 and I've got December of 17. And remember, guys, and gals, this is demo data. I'm at 53% net profit. I wish I could do that, but I can't. Anyway, we're doing well here. So a couple things I can do at this point in time. I can right click here and I can drill down into the actual 9/11 at this point in time, and I can see the transactions for the highlighted cell that I've got here. I can do that type of thing. So you've got drill downs built into it. You can even add additional drill downs yourself. So you're not limited to our drill downs. You get to add more later, and you will see how to do that today. Another thing you can do is you can click the Excel button here. So notice I'm not publishing this to Azure first. I'm hitting the Excel button and I've got my data. So that's one way to use Excel. One more way is we can do a presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and present my data automatically. And what I'm doing here is I'm laying Excel over the top of my data grid. So this is my data grid where I was. This is a new presentation surface right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and add my logo in here. And we'll go to pictures. And we'll go, oops, wrong place, y'all. I need to go to logos. Logos, and we'll add in my Reports Now logo here. And then I can also apply styles. We ship the product with about 60 different styles, and I have created my own style called Reports Now. And so when I apply that style, I'm just going to hit apply here, it changes the format. Now, you've got this style sheet here, and all you do is if you want to change the color scheme, you simply go in here and use your Excel skills, and you change the cells to be a different color or a different font or whatever you want to do, and it changes to meet that. So notice here on my style, I've got an extra column I've added here, which is blank, just called spacer. So, and then I've also got this other style here, percent, and I've actually clicked on here and I've told it to format this cell as a percent. So what I'm going to do with that, now that I've got it, is I'm going to insert a blank line between here. So I'm going to go back to my grid here, and I'm going to go down to my quick calculations. I'm going to hover over system. And I mentioned earlier, you know, with advanced self-service, it had to be fast, right? So I want you all to see, when I say fast, I mean fast as in developing things in a fast way. So everything I do for the most part is going to be a right click. It's very fast, it's very easy. So I've got a spacer column in here, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to map that to that spacer style that I showed you. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to map these two to the default style. So I'm going to go default here, and then I'm going to bounce back into my my net profit percentage down here at the bottom, and I'm going to tell that guy to use the percent, like so. Okay, and save and close. And so now when I go back to my presentation layer here, I've got my blank space here, and let's cruise to the bottom, and I've got my percentages here as well. And now I'm going to go to report look as opposed to spreadsheet look, and then this is what the report would look like when we're done building it and defining it. Okay, so that was building a P&L. You saw the drill downs, you saw how easy that was. I hope you can see how fast that is. And because it's all parameter driven up here at the top, next year, if we were in 19, you're going to type in 19 and you're going to hit run, and it's just going to work. And I can even default that to today's date and take the month of today's date, and I can make it automatic. If I want to schedule this now, I would bounce up to the scheduler, and I could go new task. We'll give it a second here. I've not used this at all today, so it's probably going to wake up on me. Okay, and then I can add tasks here. So if I want to, there's my GSI webinar P&L right there. I can deliver this thing as a PDF, as HTML, as XML, however you want to deliver that. I'm going to go with PDF, for example. I'm going to go to schedule, and then we could deliver this thing. We could even get creative here and say deliver this thing on the 4th Friday of the month if we wanted to, but we're end of year, so we're going to probably look at a specific day. Just know that the options of scheduling are very simple. And you can say, send that thing out at 6 a.m., etc. And then when you click OK, you're kind of done. And I'm not going to schedule this, but you guys get the idea. So that's all there is to it. It's very simple, very intuitive, very easy to use. One more thing I want to show off is I want to show how to share this with other people now. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. Okay, and now once it's saved, I'm going to go design, and I'm going to go down here to publish. And when I publish this, by default, I'm logged in as me for Alan. And then up at the top, it also knows I have an Excel presentation. So it's going to ask me a couple of questions. Number one, do you want to show the Excel piece only? In other words, don't show that data grid that I use to actually build it with. And I'm going to say yes, only show the presentation piece. Make it completely read-only so I'm compliant. And then your workbook, your Excel workbook, might have additional sheets on it that you used for other purposes. I don't know. If you want to hide those sheets, you can. So you can hide as many sheets here as you want to. So you can actually have multiple sheets on this if you would like to. And you click OK. And then down here, I'm going to publish it to myself. But then when you click the ellipsis button, it shows you everyone else in the organization, and you can publish it to anybody in the organization. And additionally, you can publish it to any user or any group as well. So when I hit publish here, it's going to give me a little message saying would I like to save it, and I'm going to say yeah, and then it's going to come back and tell me that it actually published it like that, and it did. So now when I close this down, what your users would see is they would go into the public workspace, and they would type in something like GSI, and there it is. So now when I hit run, all they're going to see is that nice looking P&L that we built. And that data is, that data is live. I mean, that's of a nanosecond ago. So remember I told you earlier, there's some reporting tools in the industry that can give you real time. There's some that can give you near time. There's not many that can give you both. And we'll talk about the extra BI layer that we've got here in a few minutes. So anyway, that's a real-time P&L that we built, and we built that thing in about 10 minutes. So let's back up now to 1099s and talk 1099s. So I'm going to type in address book. And Brooke, if we've got any questions popping or anything, let me know. I mean, I'll take them real time if they're out there.
Alan, we do have a question.
Okay.
This question's from Alex, and he said, how does DAS connect to the JDE system? And does it use a user account or a database account?
So Alex, you do not have to touch the database with this tool. We're just using user accounts right there inside of JD Edwards. It actually attaches to JD Edwards the exact same way that the application does, that the JDE application does. There's a layer called JDB. One of the guys here in the office actually wrote JDB when he was at JD Edwards, and we connect natively through JDB. So in fact, of the initial 15 or so developers that were working on Enterprise One when it actually went live, 5 of them work here. So we do a lot of native-like things. In fact, the guy that wrote Object Management Workbench works here. The guy that wrote RDA works here. The guy that built Finance, for the most part, works here. So we have a lot of the original crew that work here. Any other questions, Brooke, or are we good?
We are good as of right now. I'll let you know if any more pop up. Thanks, Alan.
Okay. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate the question. So I'm going to back up here. I'm going to pop into the address book. So all I did was I typed in address book, and I'm going to pop in here. And immediately you can see by default, every single column in the database pops up here. And that's way too much data for a report. The other thing you'll notice here is they're not showing up as aliases. They're showing up in natural language because that's what users need to see to be self-served. So I'm going to go ahead and go design columns. I'm going to hide everything. Now I'm going to select things back I want. So I'm going to get my address book number, my tax ID, and we'll go with search type here, and we'll go with, I don't need that. We'll go with person corporation code, and I think we're good for right now. We'll click OK. So I'm going to get some sample. Actually, I need one more thing here. Sorry, you all. Let's get the alpha name. There we go. All right, so there we go. Now, obviously, if we're doing 1099s, we don't want employees and we don't want corporations. We want people that we may have paid money to that are not corporations. So if I right click here, it shows you everything that we're actually using. So we're using to, C, N, and P. And I don't know what that means. So I'm gonna double click it and it tells me. So C's are corporations, blanks are corporations. So if I want to look at individuals, I'm probably looking at P's, and I'm probably looking at ones, and click OK. And it looks like I don't have that many people that were contractors. And then you'll notice here, it looks like I'm a little short. I thought I had some other stuff. Let me just make sure I'm not missing something here. I got individuals, non-corporate entities as well. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna hit run again. There we go. So I've got some non-corporate entities, I've got some people, and I've got, yeah, so that's what I have. Now you're gonna notice here on the tax ID, if I'm doing data prep, and I'm just making sure that my data is prepped and ready to roll, one of the first things I probably wanna do is I probably wanna go ahead and just do a data integrity type of report that I've kind of already built. And probably what I would do is I would go a string length here, and I know that a normal Social Security is probably going to be 9 digits, and a normal tax ID is probably going to be 11 digits, and those are okay, right? So what I want to do is I want to go not in list, because I don't want to look at 9s or 11s. I want to see what my outliers are, and there you go. I've got 2 of these people that we don't have data on, and and you might have keyed them in incorrect. Maybe you've got 1 extra digit or 1 fewer digit, but it's a good way to find out what you're missing. And now you've got to contact these people. So hopefully, if your JDE system is up to date, you can simply go quick calculation JDE, give me the phone number. Well, I don't have a phone number for these people. So let's see if I got an email address. Quick calculation JDE email address, and boom, I don't have that either. So I'm probably gonna have to go snail mail here and go quick calculation JDE, bring in the current mailing address, and I do have those. Okay, so at least we've got that. And I don't know how we would report it if our 1099s are incorrect. I'm not gonna worry about the mailing address right now. I'm gonna delete that. Another thing, so after we've prepped our data and we think our data is good, and let's just assume that it is here, now I need to go get the amount of money that we've paid these people. Okay, and if we paid them, they're probably sitting there in AP somewhere. So to get the data, I simply go to calculations, and one of our calculation types is called a table lookup. And then right here it asks me which table I'm going after, and I'm going to use the FO411, which is AP. So this top portion of the table lookup calculation, what that top portion is asking me is, tell me about the table and what do you want to do here? The middle portion here is asking me, how do you want to match it up? So when I click on the green area here, it's gonna show me all of the columns that are on the FO411 table, and I'm gonna match it up on the address book. And I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna match it to the address book on the this address book number right here on the report. And then the other thing I need to do is I probably need to match it up on the fiscal year. Let's see what I got here, fiscal year. And then I could make this parameter driven, or I could even calculate this, but to be easy, I'm simply gonna say, give me 2017. And then right here, the last part of it, it's gonna ask me what I wanna bring back, and what I care about bringing back is the gross amount. So we could get really creative here, you all, and we could look at pay statuses and all kinds of other stuff to make sure that we're only reporting on money that we've paid them. But let's just say that we're using accrual method here, and if we got a GL transaction in fiscal year 2017, whoops, and that should probably be 17. That we're gonna report that. So let's hit save and close. Now the problem with that number is that number is probably just the first check that we cut. If I go back here, I'm telling it to just pick up the first row. That's not what I want. I want to sum the entire amount that we paid them. So my summary type here, I'm simply gonna go sum, and I'm gonna hit save and close, and now I've got the total amount. Okay, so now that I've got my data prepped, and remember you all, you do it once. So you save this thing, you put it into a folder, you keep it until next year when you need it again. So the whole point of this is we're doing year-end stuff, we're doing it once, and now we can rinse and repeat every year. So the cool thing is now that I've got this data, I could use this data source to actually run my 1099 process. So let's talk about 1099s in general right now. So we talked about forms here a minute ago, or at least I did. Let's remove that. And so here's an example of a form. And I mentioned earlier that a lot of places, or a lot of pieces of software that are in BI these days, they can do dashboards or they can do reports, but they can't do everything. So this is an example of an image. So I opened up the IRS PDF document, and I basically did a snippet, and I brought in the image. That's all I did. And so you'll notice here what this is doing is that I'm actually, and so I've got these records right here for these people that I showed you on that report earlier, and like here's 4347, for example. So all I'm doing is the exact same columns I have here, and I can drag these anywhere I want to drag them. So I can just drag them over the top of the image, and when you're done, you're done. So that's all there is to it. I mean, I put a picture on here, I'm overlaying the picture with data elements, and when I'm done, I end up with something that looks like this right here. So this is an actual 1099 that I published as a dashboard. So let's talk about how we deliver that data to every single employee now. So let's close this, and I'm going to open up a driver. So here's a 1099 driver report. So this is going to have some people on here that I'm going to deliver 1099s to. And for the email address here, I just put my email address on every single line. We could have joined up the who's who table and brought in the email address, and I showed you that calculation earlier, but I don't have that data set up, so I'm just going to use me. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to go ahead and run this, and when I run this, it's going to burst that 1099 out to each person. So I'm running it now, and it should burst here in a second. And this is the actual report that the data comes from. But this is the actual 1099 that's bursting out right here. So it just sent that 1099 to each individual. And if I go on here and I go to drill down, I should bring up just the Johnson painting specialist right here, 1099. So that's how you would burst something out. It's a calculation that we use called a burst calculation. And the way you set that up is, whoops, hit the wrong thing, you all, sorry. I'm getting too fast. If I go to edit here and I click on my burst calculation, this is the actual name of the report. So I click on the ellipsis button here and I choose the report I want to burst out. And then down here, what I'm doing is it's asking me, I'm going to do an attachment, and the attachment's going to be the name of the report along with the timestamp. And then right here, it's asking me, how are you going to send this out? Well, I'm using this email column right here as the to. My subject just says 1099, and then my language just says, here is your 1099, and then it just sends the email automatically doing mail merge. And then if I wanted to, I could now schedule this piece to go out on the exact same scheduled P&L task I did earlier. So that's how you would do that. Again, Brooke, I want to encourage people to ask questions as we go along here. If there's any questions about that type of thing, ping Brooke in the question area, and I'll answer the questions as we go along. So let me just kind of recap here for a minute. And how are we doing on time, Brooke? How much time have I got left?
About 10 more minutes. Okay,
great. So to just recap, so far I've built a P&L. I've compared it to last year. I've published that P&L. I've scheduled that P&L. I did some 1099 data prep. I built the actual 1099 itself. I bursted out the 1099 to every single employee that I needed to send it to. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a dashboard comparing my end of year quantities that I'm looking for. So I've got a spreadsheet right here. And on the spreadsheet, what I've got is I've got my end of year goal for quantities on the shelf. And I did that by every single item number and the branch plant where it is. And I'm saying, okay, for branch plant 10, I want 900 pieces on the shelf at the end of the year. For branch plant 30, I want 250 pieces on the shelf at the end of the year. So what I want to do here is I want to build a dashboard that shows me how I'm doing, okay? And then you can see right here, I've got a gauge showing me the total amount of all of my inventory that I'm hoping to have on the shelf at the end of the year, and I'm a little under right here. And then you can also see by business unit or branch plant how we're doing. So obviously red is under, green is over. And then you can see geographically also how we're doing. So let's talk about how I built this dashboard. So we pop back into DAS here. And the cool thing about our technology is everything I've showed you so far has been a real-time report that I built. The cool thing though is that you as data people, you know, just normal everyday citizens, you guys are building your data warehouse as you go, because every single report that you build becomes a data source that can be used by either a form or a dashboard. And then those dashboards can become mobile on the internet if you want them to. So what I'm gonna do is here, I'm gonna click my dashboard icon, and it's going to show me every single report that I have built, and I've got this thing called inventory goal comparison, and I'm going to add that report as my data source. So what's going to happen here is it's opening up my dashboard surface and it's attaching it to a report. So I'm going to go ahead and run the report and just kind of show you the report. So this report now, it joins about 6 or 7 different JDE tables together, and it also joins in a spreadsheet. And the spreadsheets are right here. So I did a table lookup to this actual spreadsheet right here. And the way I did that was I told it to go after this specific spreadsheet, use sheet 1, marry it up by short item number and branch plant, and then bring back the end of your goal for that piece of inventory. And so that's my raw data. So any column I have here when I go to my dashboard is also here. So let's go ahead and begin. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build a bar chart. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice this up by item name. And then I'm going to put on my actual amount. So let's go with my actual amount here. And let's go with my goal amount. Whoops, my goal amount here. Now, obviously, that's way too many items, and probably most companies have a top 10 or a top 20 of pieces of inventory that they sell. I'm going to go with a top 10, so I'm going to go make this a top 10 and include an other column as well and apply that and click OK. So what I've got here is just like I expected. I've got some pieces of inventory which I have a lot of and some which I don't, and there is a huge discrepancy. So to make the dashboard look cool, I want to kind of scale this a little bit. So I'm going to go design, and then I'm going to go to my Y settings here, and I'm going to remove these grid lines. I'm going to remove this axis just to make it look nicer. So boom, boom, and then I'm going to scale this to a level of 2, which is more accurate than 10. And now it changes around and kind of shows me a little better look. Now, one more thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some values on my points here, and then it says hide overlapping labels. I don't want to do that. I want to reposition them, and I'm going to click OK. So now I've got labels on here, and then let's take my goal line and make that a line and put some point markers on here. And again, I'm going to go ahead and add my value here as well. And I'm not going to hide my overlapping labels. I'll reposition them, and there I go. So you can see that for the most part, we did pretty good. I mean, we're right where we should be. We don't have quite enough inventory here, and we don't have quite enough inventory down here, but for the most part, we didn't do badly. And I probably don't need this legend here either, just because I know the red line is probably my goal. So that's, if I go back and look at my cheat sheet here. So next, let's do this map here. So let's find out where our inventory is geographically. So I'm going to go with a choropleth map here. And by default, the entire world comes in, and I'm going to tell it my default map is going to be the USA. And then you'll notice here that my data for the state field has a 2-digit state code. So I'm going to go ahead and put my state on here and use my, let's go with inventory actual amount here as my value. And then I've got to paperclip this thing to my state map here. And I do that. And when I hit the paperclip, it comes up and says, okay, I can accept data in any of these formats. Which format is yours in? Mine's in this format. And then when I click OK, it shades in the values for me immediately. Now I want to add labels here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it my label is going to be that postal code and include the summary values. And there I go. So now I've got my map up. And then let's go ahead and put some card widgets up here. So I'm going to go with cards here, and I'll pull that over to here. And I hope you all can see that, remember, there's no coding here. I mean, that's why it only takes 2 days to learn this stuff. It's drag, drop, that's really it. I mean, all the work is really done here. And this, honestly, is pretty simple too. I mean, as far as getting your data in a row and column format the way that you want it, it's easier to use this thing than any other piece of software on the planet. And I play with them all the time. That's my job. So let's do some cards here. And on this one, I'm going to do a series, and I'm going to do business unit name. And then on my actual, that's going to be my actual amount. On my target, that's going to be my goal amount. And then immediately it's going to give me an up or down, and it did. Okay. Now I can make this clickable as well. So if I make that a multiple master filter now, and I cruise down to here and I click, that shows me one branch plant at a time. And then even my map, I can drill into the map and I can see where I'm at here just for that one branch plant in Tennessee. I've got 24 billion on the shelves in that. Must be a big warehouse. Anyway, let's finish this thing off. I'm going to do a gauge now. So I'm going to go ahead and do a gauge. Gauge. Where are you? Sorry, y'all, when I got people watching me, I don't go as fast. So there's my gauge, and then I'm going to click on design. I'm going to make this a half circle. And then again, I've got my actual, I got my target, and I got my series. All I really care about now is my actual and my target. So my actual is going to be my inventory. And let's use quantities on this one. So let's go with my quantity on hand as my actual, and then my inventory on hand goal here. And then I want to say, I'll rename this to be AA, and I'll rename this to be goal. And now it's going to say AA versus goal. And you can see I'm a little under. I don't have as much inventory as I really wanted, but I'm close. And then lastly, let's put some detail on here. So I'm going to do a table here, or a grid. And then I'm just going to go ahead and put on my branch plant, my second item number, and then my quantity on hand, and then my goal quantity. And then now when I click on these guys, my grid will change and show everything. So when you're finished with all this, you want to schedule this so that it refreshes. And maybe, I mean, this is a great year-end dashboard for inventory, but it's also a great month-end dashboard as well. So if I want to publish this thing, I would save this and say, AV for demo. Let's go inventory so I can find it. Click OK. And then when I want to publish this, I click on my World Wide Web icon here. And you can have as many portals as you want to. So if you're a multinational conglomerate or something, and you've got people in China, and you've got people in Brazil, and you've got people in the US, you can actually put these portals all over the earth to make them as close to your people as you can, so it's faster. But right here it says, how often do you want to refresh this data? And I could say every 2 weeks, every 3 months, every year, every 5 minutes, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go never with me, and I'm going to publish it to me. And I'm going to hit the publish button. And now what this thing is doing, it's going to take all of that data that was on that data grid, including the spreadsheet. It's going to create a table in the data warehouse. It's going to index that table in the data warehouse. It's going to push up the dashboard and make that dashboard mobile, all with one click. And by the way, you can publish this to anybody on earth. You do not have to publish these to JDE users. It can be anybody. So anybody that you create in your portal can be a person that you publish this to. So Brooke, I think I'm going to end there today and take questions.
Okay,
but I will recap real quick. Remember, automated P&L, automated 1099, automated year-end inventory, and we did all of that in about 35 minutes. So anyway,
that's great.
Yeah, any questions, Brooke?
Give me 1 second here. I'm just going to follow a few quick items, and then I'll check for a couple more questions. Well, thank you so much, Alan. That was great. I just want to cover a few follow-up items, and then we will move on to a few more questions. Our webcast today is part of GSI's free ongoing educational webcast series on JD Edwards, and our upcoming webcasts are currently listed on the screen. We are adding more every day, so for an updated schedule, just go to getgsi.com/webcast. And don't forget to join us at the Southeast Regional User Group Holiday Casino Party and Meeting in Atlanta, Georgia on December 13th. And if you'd like to sign up for our weekly email reminders for upcoming webcasts, our monthly newsletter, or to create an account to access our resource center, go to getgsi.com, go to Platforms on the main menu, and then you can select the appropriate link on the left here. All right, let me check for any more questions that we may have. And Alan, it looks like I have two more questions, and the first one is from Aaron, and he says, how does licensing work?
Thanks, Aaron. So licensing is real simple. For the designer license, which you saw me using today, which I created all this stuff with, they're concurrent licenses, which means, let's say you got 100 people in the organization. If you buy 20 licenses, all 100 people could share those licenses. So you buy them by the license, not by the person.
Okay.
And yeah, and we've got two kinds of licenses. We've got unlimited licenses just for people like executives, where you publish it to them and they run it, on demand, and then you get the developer license itself.
Great. And our next question is from Brittany, and she says, how does a trial work?
So Brittany, so the way a trial would work is that we don't sell this to you in a demo. We actually install the software. We give you 30 days to try it. We help you write reports. We give you some training, that type of thing in that 30-day period. And at the end of 30 days or so, you'll know exactly what you're getting. So there's no secrets.
Great. And follow-up question is, how long does it take to install?
So we can actually install this in 20 minutes. So in 20 minutes, you're up and live for the entire organization. It's not installed on anybody's desktop. It's a web-based product. So 20 minutes, if you want to add BI, it's an additional hour. So in less than an hour and a half, you're up and going.
Great. And one final question here from Jason, and he says, is JDE necessary to use it?
So you have to have JD. You have to be a JD Edwards user to actually do design, to design the software, and to design reports. But you don't have to be a JD Edwards user to consume the reports. You can send these reports to anybody.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Alan. That appears to be the ends of our questions for today. Thank you, everybody, for your questions, and thank you, Alan, for your answers and your great presentation today. And as a follow-up from today's webcast, we ask that you complete a short 1-minute survey when you exit, and you will be receiving an email with a link to our resource center on our website, where you can access the recording from today's webcast as well as a copy of the presentation. And after today's webcast, we will do the drawing for the $25 Amazon gift card, and anyone that attended the entire webcast will be eligible, and we will notify the winner. Well, thank you again, Alan, so much, and everybody for attending our presentation, and we hope that you guys have a great day and a great weekend.
Yeah, thanks, Brooke. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.